Mark Levin, it is such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my great honor. You're terrific. We watch you all the time, and I post your stuff all the time.
You have wonderful taste.
So my wife says, but who knows?
What happened to Tucker Carlson?
I think he banged his head. What happened to Tucker Carlson? I don't know, but he's one of many now. Well, not many. He's one of a cabal, I would say, who I don't know. They've gone like crazy. They remind me of the 1930s, really, in our country, where there was a rising isolationist movement, despite the fact that the Third Reich was rising. They said, Fortress America, basically. But it's gone beyond that, hasn't it? It's gone beyond a real sinister hate for the state of Israel, the platforming of Holocaust deniers, and things of that sort. Look, I think Tucker's destroying himself, to be perfectly honest with you. And he's got a following, but then, everybody has a following of some sort. So there's a little cabal of these people. Podcasts make it possible for anybody to get behind a microphone and a camera and say whatever they want, interview anybody they want, including from a little hovel in Maine or wherever they are. And I push back against these people all the time now, because I try to explain this has nothing to do with Make America Great Again, MAGA, we call it. Certainly nothing to do with conservatism, nothing to do with anything I believe in, any of my principles. What's happening is the media have turned Israel into the oppressor.
Yeah.
They create the environment that Israel is committing genocide. They're using UN statistics, which are lies. They're using Hamas data, which are lies. These are people who've never been to Israel or never have actually gone over there to see what's taking place. Israel hasn't started any of these wars. Israel responds to these wars. And Israel has the capacity to blow these countries and these territories off the face of the earth. It doesn't do it. What's going on in Gaza now is the responsibility of Hamas. This could be over tomorrow. All they have to do is say, here's your hostages, and we surrender. But they don't want to surrender because they're a death cult. That's why they're called terrorists. And Israel's this tiny little country fighting it. And now you'll hear more and more the war on Christians, because it is. If you look at Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, Bethlehem was 80% Christian. It's now 80% Palestinian. Show me where all the Christians are in the Middle East. You have Coptic Christians in Egypt who are really abused, and in Israel, where they're part of the government, where they serve, where they're equal. You also have Muslims in that government. You also have Arabs in that government. So it's really a diverse society, but that's not true in these other countries that surround Israel. As a matter of fact, as I also point out in the book, Muslims slaughter more Muslims than anybody else. Look what took place in Syria. Look what's going on in Yemen. Or look what takes place in Africa, where you have black Muslims slaughtering these Christian, black Christians in such horrific ways like ISIS, but it's all focused on Israel. Look at China. China has 2.5 million Uyghurs in concentration camps. Does anybody even talk about that? Not. Look at the Chechens and look what Putin did to the Chechens. They're Muslims. Does anybody talk about that? No. It's Israel, Israel, Israel. The level of anti-Semitism in Australia, in New Zealand, in Western Europe, growing in our cities is shocking, absolutely shocking. And then to talk about a two-state solution. Look at a map. As if Israel can give up any more land, it cannot. As if that will bring peace. Will that bring peace to Syria and Yemen and Africa and the Chechens and all the rest? Of course not. So what they want to do is destroy the birthplace of Judaism and Christianity. That's what they want to do. The Hamas and the terrorists and the rest. And the West is just pathetically weak when it comes to this. Israel has no choice. It's fighting for its survival. Doesn't matter what Macron says. I mean, we Americans always like to say, we already saved you once, France, and we're not going to come in and save you again. That's the way we view France.
I did enjoy it when Donald Trump said, nobody cares what he says. And
Nobody
I thought that
does.
was really brilliantly put. Last question. I know your time is incredibly precious. You can understand useful idiots marching in the street alongside Hamas. We've got feminists in Australia who are so stupid that they will try and get a guy sacked in a workplace because he's complimented a woman's dress, and oh, that's so offensive. But here I am marching alongside Hamas, who rape, kill, slaughter, kidnap women, babies, children, etc., etc. But it's the educated few and those with a profile and those who should know better that I don't know them personally, but I feel deeply let down by. How do they buy into this bullshit propaganda? Who do you feel most let down by? Maybe someone that you admired, someone who's completely lost the plot in this space when it comes to Israel and a democratic nation in a war they did not start, did not want, do not need.
It's a very interesting question. I haven't thought about it that much, and I'll tell you why. My view is offense, offense, offense. Go on offense. Explain to the American people, anybody who wants to listen, where I stand, where I think people who believe in freedom should stand, people who believe in life should stand, people who believe in democracy should stand. I just plow ahead. I roll over them. Whatever they do, they do. If I need to call some of them out, I'll call them out. And sometimes I have very aggressively. But my view is we got to get our story out there. We got to explain to people what humanity is all about and liberty is all about and all these things, because they're not going to get it in school. They're not going to get it on television. Maybe we have big conservative talk radio here. They'll get it from that, but they won't get it anywhere else. So my view is to try and open people's eyes to the possibilities of humanity and life and liberty, and how joyous it is, how lucky we are, those of us who can have it and do have it, and how we have to hold on to it. And these forces of Marxism, Islamism, these other isms, they're out to take it from us and destroy us. Again, that's the whole point of this book on power. Stop agreeing to your own demise. When a government comes in and says, excuse me, we're going to take over your health care, the government has choices then over your life and death. When the government comes in and says climate change, that means they actually want to regulate air and water. Well, if you're regulating air and water, you're regulating me. There's no limit to this. They can come into your business. They can come into your home. You're using too much this. You got to change what you cook with. You got to change how you take your kids to school. You got to do all these things. Excuse me. I don't need morons who happen to work in the government or happen to get elected to government telling me how to live my life. As for these elitists, they go through this indoctrination through colleges and universities. The higher you go, the dumber it gets. PhD and so forth and so on. When you really look at, Mao was a teacher, Lenin was a professor, Castro was a lawyer. Most of these revolutions are not the bottom up, whether the communist revolution or the top down, because Marx was wrong about everything, everything. The proletariat, the working people are going to rise up and overthrow their government. Where has this happened? It's happened in communist regimes. That's what happened in Poland and throughout, during the Reagan era. In our country, the people rise up and go to war to defend our country. Yeah. Same with Australia, same and so forth. And so the people don't want to overthrow the society and replace it with some moronic, Marxist, whatever they want to call it, system. The people defend the system. Systems need to be perfected here and there because we're all imperfect and institutions are imperfect. The Marxists exploit that. They'll say, that's not fair. There's billionaires and... Just real quickly, let me give you an example.
So what?
How does a billionaire affect me? It's irrelevant. Exactly. In America, I go right 3 miles from this house. I go to a grocery store. There's every kind of food imaginable, every kind of drink imaginable. It's available to the electrician, to the plumber, to the janitor, to the truck driver, to the lawyer, to the surgeon. Same thing. We walk in there. We live better than any kings or queens in the history of mankind. So we should have some moron who happens to get elected prime minister or president or governor or whatever, or local city council say, well, we think this should happen. Who cares what you think? I mean, seriously, just make sure the roads are okay. Make sure the people are safe. Make sure the kids are educated, not indoctrinated. You seem to have enough difficulty doing that. Leave all the rest of it to me and to society, not you. And so my view is push the agenda, explain to people why they're so blessed to have the kind of liberty that they do, and And when we get people who are running, like this Mondami wants to be mayor of New York, who's a Marxist, Islamist, anti-Semite, of course I'm going to keep calling him out and so forth and so on. But I'm going to juxtapose it to who we are and what we are, because they keep attacking the system. They keep attacking our founding, and I defend our founding.
Why they call you the Great One, in your opinion?
Wow. Well, you know, Sean Hannity, who's a big-time broadcaster in the United States on radio and TV, he just started calling me that. And when I was much heavier, I used to call myself the Great Big One, not so much the Great One. But for debating, I suppose, I don't get to debate that much. I can't get any leftists on any of my shows. I try desperately to get them on my show, from governors to senators to activists to whatever, and they won't come on the show. So in any event, he used to have a show called Hannity and on Fox, and I used to go on there and debate Combs, and also CNN had a debate program. I used to be on there, but now nobody has a debate program. So that's it, pretty much.
You're probably the most well-read, most thorough when it comes to preparation. You have the most substance of any host that I've watched, and I watch a lot of people in your field on television. Is that just who you are? Do you work particularly hard to be that way for on-air purposes, or is it just what you would do anyway in terms of the breadth and depth of knowledge that you have?
Well, I'm a lawyer, so we're taught to do this, although there are a lot of slip and fall lawyers out there who don't. But this is what I love to do. I love to study these things. If I'm going to go on the air and people are going to take time to watch me, I don't want to just be another bobblehead out there regurgitating what everybody else does, so I will dig in. I mean, what's interesting, I'll give you an example, is we've been talking here about a guy named John Bolton, who was the National Security Advisor to the President, relating to the potential release of classified information, and everybody's talking about it, but nobody actually read the judge's opinion. So I decided to do that, which is damning of Bolton. And so I went on air last night, and I read the opinion because I thought it was very, very important. I come to my views, it's a mix of principle and facts. I want to know what the facts are. My principles are really unwavering, whether it's limited government or freedom or whatever they may be in a particular area. And I try and test them against the facts, and then use the facts to advance the principles if I can.
General Jack Keane was on your show, and I watched your entire show, as I always do. And even, I think one of the real skills when you host a television show, conducting an interview is you know, you're trying to get the best material out of your guest. And I hadn't heard General Keane make the point so eloquently and so succinctly about what needs to be done with Putin regarding Russia. And he said 3 things that, you know, should be done privately, may have already been done, but need to be done. Do you have a particular method that you use when you have guests on? Do you change it depending on who they are? What's your process from that perspective?
Most guests that I choose are guests I want for a reason, because they have something to share that's useful. Most hosts just keep talking and they never shut up and let the guest speak. So my view is to ask a general question that's kind of pinpointed in a particular direction. And if you keep your mouth shut and you listen, a lot of times these guests say things that you don't expect or that are very, very important. And so that's why guests come on my show, because, you know, we have 4 segments. I have my monologue. So I say my piece, then I set up the question, and I let the person answer it. And in most cases, as I said, I can't get competition on there to debate with me, so I get people on there who I think are going to share information that the public may want to know. So why step all over their feet when they're explaining their position? This man is a retired 4-star general. He was vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the number 2 position. And he knows a hell of a lot more than I do. And when you listen to him, he's very compelling. And so that's why I kept my mouth shut and let him speak.
Yeah. Often I think as well, people are trying to think of their next question rather than listening, because often they'll say something, you'll go, wait a minute, and then follow up on that rather than this rehearsed next question people have. On Power, your latest book, and you're a million times over New York Times bestselling author. It is phenomenal. And I said in a mini little review that I did that this is a book for this time. I'd love you to explain to my audience power. It's called On Power. And it's so true in that we often don't focus on power as being the source of so much evil or so much good, but it's almost the only source of it. Everything else comes back to that almost.
I think so. You know, I never thought that way before. I never gave that word much thought.
Yeah.
And when I injured my leg, I tore my tendon 100%. People say, how do you do that? And I said, you know, it was athletics, it was sports. But actually, I missed 2 steps and I tore my tendon. But anyway, so I got to thinking about this because you're lying in bed sort of staring at the ceiling. And I thought about the American founding, and then I started to think about what goes on today. Your country, Australia, I mean, you've got like the worst government ever. I look at other governments. Britain has a horrendous government. France has a horrendous government. In my view, we have a very solid president and government who's confronting these evils. But I start to think about these things, and, you know, I read Aristotle and Cicero and Locke and Montesquieu and all these people, and I have over the years. And I thought, you know, we don't talk about power enough. We talk about liberty, we talk about tyranny, we talk about good, we talk about evil, we talk about what kind of government do we want, or we talk about politics. But I thought it all comes down to power, really, doesn't it? Because the way you set up a government, even in your own life, if, you know, in your own family, it's not like an aggressive power thing, but it's, okay, who's going to make decisions about what, who's going to do what. So I got to thinking, rather than the psychobabble, I didn't want to get into all that stuff. I'll leave it to the psychologists. Yeah. How does it apply to government, society, and culture? And that was a big enough topic. And then I said, and how do I get people to read about it? Because my last book was pretty big. Yeah. A lot of people bought it, but still, I want people to understand this topic. So I decided to write my most concise book, which is harder to do than a thick book. And I started to break down this idea of power. What is power? What does all this mean? And I look at the American founding. I mean, our Revolutionary War was fought over who represents whom. What kind of government do we want to set up? You know, the French Revolution, they wanted to destroy the society. Yeah. The American Revolution was not about destroying the society. It was about eliminating the connection between the monarchy and the colonists, and they wanted their own power, their own representation. And so we get down to that. We get down to our Constitution, which is a beautiful document, 3 branches of government. That's Montesquieu, checking each other. 10th Amendment to our Constitution, which gives all of our states authority. So that's further diverse and diminished power from the central government. And yet we need a central government. And yet we need a central government in order to pull the country together. The balance is beautiful. Now, the left in our country, like the left in your country, it's all about centralized, power-hungry government telling us what we can do, telling us what we can't do, on and on and on. The difference, at least in America, is we have an entire Bill of Rights that protects the individual, including our gun rights, due process rights, warrants, and the whole thing that were added a few years later, because this nation, our nation, was founded on the idea that the individual is sovereign and the civil society is sovereign, and government comes later. Government is built around our society, not the other way around. Too much of the West, the government is devouring the society. It's devouring individualism. And of course, always in our name. So I decided I got to deal with this. There's positive power. I feel the way our government was set up, even though it's being abused left and right by the left, by certain courts, by the bureaucracy. And then there's negative power, this power to tell us what to do, whether we can own guns or not, what kind of lives we're going to live, different types of words that we can use, words we cannot use, and on and on and on. And so I come to the conclusion in the book that Marxism is what drives the left, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Britain, Israel, whatever it is. The left is sort of a soft Marxism. It is a they all talk like Marxists, redistribution of wealth, the economic classes. There aren't economic classes. If you live in a capitalist society, you're not stuck in a class. You can work harder and make more money. Maybe you're rich and you become poor or broke or whatever it is. It is a dynamic situation, and capitalism and liberty go hand in hand. Socialism and big government go hand in hand. And so I break all this down in the book, that power is the issue. And when you're voting for somebody and they tell you, we're going to control rent prices, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, I want people to start to think what that means in terms of their own lives. That means you are surrendering your sovereignty to these politicians. You know, we hate politicians, but we're willing to convey on them all this power over us. Well, why? Are they more righteous? Are they more intelligent? No. Matter of fact, they're less righteous and they're less intelligent. It's like the bureaucracy. We're going to set up this bureaucracy with experts and people who are going to help us, you know, in this part of our life. You don't have experts in the bureaucracy. You have unions, you have civil service, you have people you can't fire and so forth. They're not experts to begin with. But you don't want experts in your society. You want you to be able to make decisions about yourself. So the book gets into all this.
Could we force everyone who is about to vote for Mamdani to read this book? Because the examples you just gave, he comes front of mind.
Well, I wish we could, but I don't think so, because most of them don't read. They tend to be elitists. What's interesting is in New York, most of the people who are supporting Mamdani are wealthy, white women, among others. It's not the union workers. It's not the blue-collar people from various ethnicities and so forth. He's a very dangerous man, but this is a rising problem in the United States. It's already gripping Europe. I mean, Western Europe is being swamped by this. Eastern Europe knows what it's about. They fight it. Western Europe, honestly, is weak. Macron is weak. They're all weak.
Oh, isn't he?
Yeah, and so they all accommodate, and people are getting fed up with it, I think, but they're not sure what to do about it.
When you look at power, someone like the American president, they say he's the most powerful man in the world. It's not just the capability, is it? But it's the willingness to use it, the willingness to act. And Donald Trump has done that phenomenally with the rot in the universities in America and is having significant wins. That's something you would be very fond of, I would assume.
Yeah, here's the thing. The left in our country, like in most of the West, controls the culture. Whether it's the media, entertainment, we have Hollywood. And so they push their ideology, they push their propaganda, and so forth and so on. So Donald Trump is really the first president in my lifetime. He's reaching down into the culture, into society, not just superficially at the political level. He's reaching down where the left is. And he is changing it. And so where's the left? It's in our universities and colleges. And so among other places. And so we give all this taxpayer money, and the left uses our money to advance its agenda. And he said, you know, we're going to stop that. And so he's got his Department of Justice, Department of Education, all other elements of the federal government looking at what these colleges and universities are doing, which is so exciting to me, because you have faculty professors who have tenure, who are Marxists or Islamists. They're brainwashing the next generation to hate this country. If young people hate the country, it won't survive, whatever country it is. And so he's dug in there. Really, we have these big Washington, D.C. law firms that promote all of this stuff. And if they're on the government dole, he's addressing that too. We even have it in kindergarten, first grade up to 12th grade, our elementary, middle, and high school level. He's looking at that too. It's remarkable because Donald Trump didn't get elected as, quote unquote, a traditional conservative. Donald Trump got elected as, quote unquote, America First. And what America First means is our founding, our Constitution, our Declaration, our principles. And we can't keep funding individuals and ideologies that have as their purpose the destruction of our country. He calls it the enemy within. The West has an enemy within. Every Western country now has these people, what I call the fusion in the book, the fusion of Marxism and Islamism. That's exactly what's taking place. It's been taking place in our colleges and universities. It's funded by Qatar. It's funded by Iran. It's funded by Hamas. Same with all of Europe. Same thing is going on. Australia, same thing is going on. In our country, it's going on big time. I will say this about Americans. We are a unique breed, and we don't like it. And we don't like what's going on, and we are pushing back. And we're pushing back hard. We'll see what happens in the end. Who knows? But you can see with the election of Trump, that was a landslide election. You can see even with some of our governors, we have some very, very good governors, very lousy governors, of course, but some very, very good governors in some big states. They're pushing back too. We have a problem with the unelected judges. Some of them are absolutely Looney Tunes. And then
we cover that, the weaponization of the judicial system in the book as well. Yeah.
And that's happened, I assume, in your country. It's certainly happened in ours. It's happened in Israel.
Not to the same extent, no.
Yeah. Well, we have all these lower court judges, about 800 of them, all over the country. It's created by our Congress. They're not even in our Constitution, but Congress can create them. And so there have been over 300 lawsuits filed against the Trump administration to try and stop the administration from doing a whole panoply of things. And then we have appellate court, and then we have the Supreme Court. And these appellate courts, 3 out of 4 times, are overturning the lower courts. And then the U.S. Supreme Court, I would say 4 out of 5 times is overturning the lower courts too. The problem is the Democrats have loaded up these courts under Biden and Obama with hardcore ideological activist leftists. And so it is a big problem in our country.
I love that. What a beautiful way to end. Mark Levin, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and just for being the person that you are and fighting every single day for not just Americans, but for the rest of us around the world who believe so deeply in the values. You've listed them all. We thank you very much. We're very grateful.
Well, you're terrific. God bless you. Keep up the fight. You're an independent voice out there, and you're terrific. And let me just say this. For you and a few other ladies to stand there while 100,000 people are marching by, basically endorsing Hamas, because it's that simple, is so brave, so courageous. I want to tip my hat to you and thank you and those other ladies for doing what you did. God bless you.
They were amazing. They were very brave. We were nervous, but we could not let a march for humanity pass by without a hostage in sight. ISIS flags, Hamas flags, Al-Qaeda, you name it, there, nothing about hostages. Insanity. Thank you so much for your kind words.
God bless.